Hi again, and welcome back to Blush and Bloom, where we explore real issues affecting women's health and people creating change. I'm your host, Gigi. I'm the founder of Asela as well. And today's episode is all about pregnancy care and why catching complications early can make all the difference. We're joined today by Sharon. She's the co founder and CEO of Shela Health, a company using science and smart technology, AI as well, to predict pregnancy complications early on before symptoms show up. Sheila doesn't just react to problems, it takes a more proactive approach and helps you prevent them in the first place. Their goal is simple: give every pregnant woman the information she needs to feel safer, more prepared, and better supported. And now, in this episode, let's learn more from the co founder herself. All right, awesome. Hi, Sharon. Thank you so much for joining me on the Blush and Bloom podcast. So, for someone who's meeting you for the first time, how would you introduce yourself?
So first, I would introduce myself as Sharon. That's nice to meet you. My name is Sharon Handelman-Gotlib, and I am the CEO and a co-founder of Shela Health, providing early prediction and precision health for pregnancy for the prenatal space. I'm not only that from a business perspective, but I'm also wife and a mother of 4 kids. So therefore, this topic is very close to my heart. Aside from that, I try to find some time for sports, which is very important. I ran long distance marathons and try to go jump and swim as well. So focus on swimming, cycling, etc.
Okay, that's so cool. So quick pivot from like for someone who wants to start running for the first time, like what tips do you have for them?
Excuse
Like
me?
someone who wants to like start their first marathon, like what tips do you have for them? Like someone who just wants to like start running.
So like a startup or like anything in life, take the first step. When I started, some might say my first really kind of 1 kilometer, I'm not talking as a teenager, but more as an adult, starting with 1K and 2Ks. I thought that would be an impossible, really, wow. And then I saw, it's no biggie and you can do that. I'm reaching 10K for the first competition that I attended. It was a night run and I fell in love with the running. And then I added in my partner in life and he became very serious about that. So everything he did, basically, he added me and I kind of had to tag along. So half a marathon, I'm in. Then full marathon, I'm in. Then adding cycling and swimming. No brainer. Let's do that. And the secret is enjoying that and trying to be very consistent and taking it in a very, I'd say, gradual approach, one step at a time. And don't beat yourself against if you didn't have a very good training at the day or you're feeling low in energy. Just keep on and being persistent, believe in yourself, and enjoy the process.
Amazing. Thank you so much for sharing that. All right. So let's talk a bit more about your business, your startup. So can you tell a bit like the backstory, like what was the idea and how it's going so far?
Sure. So I'd say the startup was around understanding first the unmet need, I'd say, generally speaking, in women's health. There are so many opportunities, but for many reasons, and I think we'll speak to that later on during our conversation of why specifically pregnancy complications. As a mother and as understanding the technology and the science together with my co-founders, we realized that pregnancy journey, the prenatal space, has a very high unmet need that needs to be solved, with 25% of pregnancies entailing a severe pregnancy complication. That's a global number. So it's 1 out of 4. It's huge. You understand that you have the power and maybe the solution to support women and new families, and of course the babies, in offering a better future, a healthier start. And that's something that kind of kicked this off, saying we want to do better and improving the lives. I'd say the beauty of prenatal is not only impacting mothers, but also impacting the babies, their future health, and the way, I'd say, also the economy around that. Because if we have healthy outcomes for pregnancy and delivery, then for the mother, for the couple, for the future young family, it makes life much easier and it entails so much more than just having a very good outcome of birth.
Okay. That makes sense. Going deeper into what you mentioned about like 1 in 4 pregnancies facing serious complications, like why do you think that number is so high, even with recent technological advances?
Yeah, well, I'd say that's a very fair question, and it's hard to answer, and it has, I guess, many reasons. I'd say that when you talk about adding in technology and adding in precision health in other in other health space domains, like cardiology, like oncology, precision health is something that goes today as a gold standard. And we see this still as a gap we've identified in pregnancy, in the prenatal, and I'd say in women's health in a broader perspective. So that is kind of the approach today that should be changed. We are very reactive rather than being very proactive. And the fact that we understand pregnancy maybe in a later stage or miss out the early potential identification of those risks from early stages of pregnancy makes all the difference. And that's kind of why we were seeing that. Of course, with other I'd say parameters and reasons for that, we see older women giving birth, which entails more complications by default. The fact that people and women specifically come with higher comorbidities to a pregnancy journey, of course, impact that. So all in all, we see, I'd say, the intersection of several reasons for that, and also the fact that we see the improvement, of course, the unbelievable, I'd say, gigantic leaps in health in so many spaces. And we're starting to see that also in women's health. And that's where Shela is focusing on providing that diagnostic cutting edge ability and providing precision health, which is standard, to bring that to be the gold standard also in pregnancy journey.
That sounds really exciting. So let's a bit more on what you just said. I like the way you position it as more of a proactive approach rather than a reactive approach. So based on your insight so far, like what's a more proactive approach towards approaching a pregnancy? Like what should women be doing, especially now that we have more older women getting pregnant around this period because of economics and all the other factors?
I'd say the proactive approach would be having those diagnostic tools in place for women and using them early on. So if we take Shela, of course, as an example, by integrating our solution into health systems and offering that to women, we are able to identify early on the risk of a woman to have one or several pregnancy complications. That gives us kind of a plan, if you'd like, a navigation ability for the physician, for the woman herself to say, okay, I understand the complication, the risk, and together with the clinical team to define also mitigation plan, if you'd like, so to speak. So what should we be doing differently, whether it's a medication, treatment, lifestyle, etc. There are many ways to do that, but it starts with early identification, this early diagnostic and integration of tools that can provide that knowledge, that opportunity. It gives the power back to, I'd say, the joint, I'd say it as a group, both the clinical and the woman, as it's together. It's a team effort to do something in improving the health outcomes.
Okay, awesome. So what are some common complications that women tend to face during pregnancy, and how can they affect both the mom and the baby?
So the common ones that we're at least looking at, of course, there are many others. We are focusing on the major one, which is preeclampsia, which we see, again, it varies between, I'd say, countries and continents. But all in all, in average, we see in preeclampsia, let's say, 5 to 8%, and the numbers are a little bit increasing in Africa. If we want to speak specifically about, the numbers are quite higher. And of course, we are addressing not only preeclampsia, but also gestational diabetes, preterm birth, and other complications. So these are big, and they affect the mother, they affect the baby, the delivery outcomes, whether it's emergency deliveries, whether it's a high NICU cost of the fact that we need to admit the early on, and having a more, I'd say, rigorous kind of monitoring and looking after both the mother and the baby. So these are things we see as an implication of pregnancy complications.
Okay, awesome. So for someone who is listening and they don't know what preeclampsia is, could you explain in very simple, layman terms what it is, please?
Yeah, sure. Of course. So yes, for me, it goes without saying. So preeclampsia, we see that in, I'd say, the understanding of high pressure, hypertension. Again, they're it's hypertension. And you see that in symptoms like sickness, fogness, dizziness, etc., and of course high blood pressure. And these are the strong signals that you see once you identify preeclampsia. And that's what we're trying to say early on, because that can be treated.
Okay. That's very good to know. Thank you for sharing that. And let's talk a bit about like the approach that Shela is taking towards supporting women through this. Like how does the collaboration between Shela, the mother and the clinic, how does that look like? What kind of data is being gathered? How does it work?
So I'd say we start off by working with the clinic itself, with the doctors overseeing that and providing the early, I'd say, the diagnostic of a woman when she standard visit to the clinic throughout the pregnancy journey. And once she comes in, she basically she goes through, it's very seamless and very, back office. So first step, she doesn't have to do anything. She just gets a preliminary based on data and clinical data and demographic data. We have a triage of identifying early on the woman. And if the team, the OB identifies a risk based on our model, then we send to a second multiomics driven. So it's more of the biology factor coming in. So sending her into laboratory tests to define the final risk score, and basically sharing that with the mother, saying this is the risk for, let's say, for preeclampsia, for gestational diabetes, or what have. And this is also the course that we need to take together in order to mitigate that and intervene in a timely manner in order to prevent those complications from occurring. And that's kind of also very important to say from the capability that we're presenting. It's the fact that we are able to provide the tools of prevention. It's not something that we do, but it's in the hands. Once we identify and provide that know-how and knowledge, then the OB, the maternal fetal medicine specialist, knows what to do with that and provide the right course to take, whether it's also increase, I'd say, monitoring and screening, treatment, recommendations, etc. It's the awareness that is also kind of a tag along to that process. So for the woman to take, I'd say, stronger activities to kind of help and shape a better outcome for the pregnancy. And we approach that in the fact that it's not a one size fits all, and not everybody has to go through all the screening in the world or all the diagnostic and testing. If we identify a woman which is at zero risk or very minimal one, we just say, you know what, we don't identify that. You shouldn't go through X, Y, and Z or do that. Just have keep, the standard that we expect you as a mother, as a future mother, and no need to panic. So it's really focusing on the care where needed and to whom is needed, which makes, I guess, all the difference.
Okay. This is really exciting. I love learning about your product. So taking it from the precision medicine point of view, like how does that look in practice for your product? Like, since you're working towards making individual like recommendations for each woman, how does that look like in practice? And do you use AI for this, or it's still more of a data-driven approach?
No, it's all AI, actually. I mean, in our world today, you cannot have, I guess, a product if it's not a device without AI. So actually, we've been doing that for many years already in Shela. I mean, our models and platform is heavily reliant on AI and machine learning. We take the most, I'd say, advanced and innovative approach for machine learning and AI, and we kind of configure big data approach and embedding biological data as well, and taking in new technologies to kind of provide the ability to have a model. So definitely AI driven, and again, very precision, personalized recommendations that are based on that. We have very diverse data sets from different areas in the world to have that kind of shaped into providing the maximum, I'd say, the best in class algorithms and product for women.
That's really exciting. So let's say because one of the biggest topics around AI so far is from the privacy aspect of things. So how does Shela factor in like data privacy, AI ethics, and all these other important things into building out the product? Because the tools, if you're like, I understand, like if you're constantly iterating with what's the latest technology, the rules are constantly changing and adapting. So like, how does that look like for your startup?
So I guess we've done enough validation for basic models, at least the ones we're going out to market. And of course, there's always room for improvement. And that's the beauty of that. I mean, you constantly improve based on real data, and with the advancements of technology and new solutions out there, we will keep in bringing in more and more to that and enabling to have the best solution out there for women.
Okay. Awesome. And so I wanted to ask from like, okay, like this is really cool stuff. Like you're working in like one of the most exciting parts of like women's health, I think, because you're combining like AI, precision medicine, and all these other cool things. Like, so how has it been for you so far? Like, what are things that you've had to unlearn as a founder? Like from your, this is more like from your own personal experience. Like, how were you able to like put together all your experiences and support your team through building all of this? Because I understand that you come from a non-technical background and you've been able to like upskill and do all this stuff. Like for somebody, for example, who wants to like build in women's health that doesn't have this say medical or a bio background whatsoever, like how can they like get started and build something really cool?
So I guess it's first finding the right partners for that, because I'd say I have an exceptional co-founding team. It's not me only in this the team of Shela, and I have the best in class, I'd say, co-founders with me, each one from the various domains. So from a clinical standpoint, my chief medical officer heads women's health innovation at one of the top 10 leading hospitals in the world. So from a clinical standpoint, I've got that covered. Same goes from the science and the data. My chief science officer is considered to be number one expert in multi-omics microbiome in first 1,000 days of life. And my chief data officer in charge of the magic of the algorithms is again considered to be one of the top researchers in the world. So even for myself, I come more from the business side of things and the wider approach of women's health and understanding the need to drive change. But my first, I'd say, tip is to find the right partners and identify those that also can drive the change with you. And of course, also be very super nice. So that's one. And from a personal perspective, I mean, with all my years in the career behind me, focusing on health, I led the innovation at a very large HMO, so very close to the digital health solutions and ecosystem on a, I'd say, very local and also global level. I understand that, and wherever I identify an area, I really dive into, I learn, I study, and I feel very comfortable to understand both from the science side of things, from the medical side of things, from the product side of things, identifying, having the ability to ask the right questions and to think out of the box for the right solution. So that's kind of where I am. And if you have that, again, if you want to tackle a challenge based on personal experience or whatever the reason is, just go for it and make sure you have an understanding and you have the confidence in yourself to know that you can do that. That's kind of what drives me.
All right. That's incredible. I'm really impressed by the caliber of your co-founders. As a CEO, I understand like there's a lot of like you have to be the one who regularly like assembles the team together, reminds them of, reinforces the vision of the company. So were you able to like gather these people together and then tell them like this is something that's worth your time building and let's work together on this really cool thing? Like how did that look like?
Well, I'd say again, it's a group effort and it's not something that I created or kind of grouped everybody together. It's something that we've been working in various channels throughout the years together on different projects or different areas. And it so happened they were working on something and we just thought that combining forces would be the best and defining kind of our approach, our strategy, and our long-term vision, and starting again very small and kind of scaling from that. So it's understanding that we have the right team, understanding that we agree on the basics and the foundation of that from the get-go, and just making sure that we are always constantly aligned in that.
Okay, awesome. Thank you so much for sharing that. So let's talk a bit more about like pregnancies or in this context. So in some cases where it's difficult for women to like advocate for themselves in regards to like how they're feeling and communicating with their OBGYN, for example, like what tips do you have for women to like stand from like when they're like how can they better present themselves? Like because from what I've been learning so far, it's like sometimes women need a bit more data to present to for them to be taken seriously about symptoms that they're experiencing. So what are your thoughts on this? Like, how can women be more educated on pregnancies and what they need to know?
Sure. It's a great question, and I think a very important point to make sure that you come prepared and do not take everything for granted. So do your checkups, understand your history, your mother's history, your family history, what's going on, what are the trends out there, what are the tests available, what should I be doing, how should I treat my body during this transition, because pregnancy is a whole new ballgame. So it's very different than what we were used to. And I'd say also a very critical point in time that women start taking health seriously. I'd say it's the first spot for women really taking this encounter with health system, the first checkups. I mean, before that, typically women are healthy and hopefully do not require a lot of interaction with the health systems. It would be the first one, so maybe a little bit awkward, or kind of getting the sense of having not in a I'd say a very familiar space to be at. So ask the questions, read, understand, yet also come very cool to the table and saying, I understand, and I will take also responsibility. So think of it very level-headed, very to the point, very focused on that. Don't be shy asking the questions, challenge, check it out, learn more, learn of what innovative, I'd say, solutions are out there. So it's kind of a mix. I hope I gave the framework of what I would do, and how I came, let's say, to my pregnancies, even before, I'd say it's been a while since I gave birth. So even before that, without cutting edge solutions and strong algorithms for early prediction, I knew the numbers. I knew what tests I want to do or what I did not want to do. And I gave a very rational kind of, I'd say, reasoning to why I'm asking what I'm asking, knew the statistics about that, and make sure that I understand and have a basic or at least a strong foundation for a discussion with my OB.
Okay, awesome. And okay, so from your personal experiences with having babies and also from building your company, were there things that you've had to unlearn about like women's health, pregnancy in general that you would like to share with the audience?
Well, I'd say I learn it's still an ongoing journey for learning. It's learning every day. So it's not something that stopped, or it's not something that I feel that it will ever stop. It will never stop. And I don't want that to be in a pause for 1 minute. I'm always learning. I'm always opening my eyes and trying to find a better solution that we had yesterday, and the one that I want to have better in 2 weeks and in a year from now. So never stop learning, never stop asking, and making sure that you're there to have that better approach. And of course, never being afraid to say, I don't understand, or I don't know, or we got stuck with a roadblock and we're now going to detour and find a different way to solve that.
Okay, awesome. Okay, now I want to talk a bit more about AI because AI is exciting and what everybody's talking about these days. So I wanted to like get your perspective on AI, especially in women's health, or from the perspective of your product specifically. Like, how do you see this like changing the way we approach things? And do you see it like getting better and better, or are there things that people should be on the lookout for when like building with AI?
Well, AI, when you use it smartly and in the framework that you want to use that, then of course it improves health. That's without a question. You just need to ensure that you have the right cohort, the right pool of people you want to check. Then it's not very, I'd say, limited or very undiverse. So let's say up until several years ago, most of the developments in the clinical world were based on men, a very male-driven population. And we were addressed as a very small male, which doesn't make sense for many, many reasons. And first, ensuring that you have the right data set and the right population to drive the studies and train your algorithms and your AI. If you don't have that, then you're wrong from the baseline. So when you're talking about that, so it's first the awareness, get the women involved, start doing, say, clinical studies and get the population that you want to study in place. So women, very diverse, say, populations of women across board from different diverse populations around the world. And that will enable us to have an understanding and making sure that our AI models are transferable and make sense and match not only specific populations, but the wider and majority of women that can use that. So that's something very important for us. And that's why we've been validating our models and very diverse population. So the awareness, getting the right data in place, getting the right data set that you want to choose. And of course, going through the magic of AI and algorithms according to what is needed. So once you have that, and of course you go through the process as it should be, then there's no reason not to apply that. And of course, by applying those tools, which are very important, AI, it gives you an edge as opposed to the standard maybe a year ago or 2 or 10 years ago, because the human eye cannot see specific things or can't identify early on, that's the magic of models in machine learning and AI that can provide that opportunity for early prediction. And of course, for us, it's also adding in the multiomics, which is a very innovative way of thinking. It's taking the biological, I'd say, markers and parameters into the AI, into the models that we are incorporating today in the system, and providing that kind of the new opportunity, identifying what the biology of a woman is saying in transition during pregnancy. So adding in those bring us to a place where we have stronger power to manage any process, but I'd say specifically for the pregnancy is taking smarter decisions, and I'd say more power with data-driven, I'd say recommendations, decisions, awareness is very important.
Okay, awesome. Thank you so much. So another question I have about like building with AI tools, I think we talked about this a bit earlier, but let me just bring it up again. It's like, how do you build trust with women with sharing their data? Because I think like the way people approach their data privacy a few years back is a bit different now, because people are more, AI is evolving like really fast. So people are now better understanding what privacy is, how big companies are monitoring their data and everything else. So how do you build trust with the women using your platform to share this kind of data with you, like as personal as their health and pregnancy? Like, how does that look like?
Well, building a trust, I'd say I look at it in 2 levels. One is to trust the algorithm itself, that it gives the right information and the right recommendation. That's one. And the fact that we're using it also in a trustworthy manner, and that we are not using any of the data for, God forbid, harm, but only for the sake of a woman. So what are the infrastructures and what are the measurements that we're putting in order to protect the woman's data, which of course is a very, very important tool. So I'd say from a trust perspective, it's showing that we have strong results for clinical studies. That's one, with publications, and making sure that we are able to demonstrate the fact that by implementing these models, we show improvement by early identification. So from, let's say, 100 women in pregnancy, and that you would expect to have 10 women with, let's say, 8 women, I'm just giving the numbers for the standard ones for preeclampsia. While using that, we're able to identify those women earlier in the process, and hopefully also to provide that if those 8 women the right treatment in order to reduce the rate of preeclampsia from occurring. So that's kind of a longer strategy in place. The second one, from a trust perspective, is showing, improving, and getting, of course, the seal of approval that we are following the standard of all the regulations, the way we store the data, the way we do not share the data, the way it's safely stored in the healthcare systems. And of course, we're using unidentified, data points. There are many measurements that we put in place. And of course, that's the most important thing, that we put in strong energy and resources are in this space to make sure that we value the data. It doesn't leave, I'd say, the sacred space where we protect it. And we do not use that for anything but the identification of and providing the information back to the woman and the clinician of what is needed and where they should be doing things. So that's kind of a very important point, and ensuring that there's no breach in that trust between our parties.
Yeah, awesome. Okay, so let's talk a bit more about Shela. So like, where do you see your company in the next few years, especially with the way like AI is moving fast, technology is rapidly improving? Like, how do you see the company shifting in the next couple of years?
So shifting, I see it growing and expanding our capabilities, not only in the prenatal space, but in larger areas in women's health. That's one. And being able to provide our solutions, our platform for many women across the world. So not only in specific countries, but also providing our offerings to Africa, managing those for developing countries, and providing really better health outcomes and accessible and affordable solutions for women, regardless of where they live and what health insurance they have. That's kind of my biggest dream. And of course, improve and provide additional solutions for women in the prenatal space and pregnancy complications. But as I said, expand that and grow in the early prediction, in the prevention, in providing the right intervention for women. So that's kind of where my head is at.
Incredible. All right. So there's if you could change one thing about how the healthcare system supports pregnant women, like what would that be?
Integrating Shela models as early as possible. Sharon, it really changes the course and transforms the whole maternity journey by integrating prediction capabilities and prediction models. You understand the way it should be going, and you have the power to intervene and really change the course of action and the outcomes of pregnancy, not only for the short run, but also for the long run, which is, again, a very important point I'd say that I'd like to emphasize, because pregnancy complications and postpartum complications are heavily connected and with a high correlation to long-term complications, both for the mother and for the newborn. So if we are able to impact those outcomes, then we are able to impact the long-term health journey of people, which is amazing.
Yeah, I agree. That does sound incredible, like very, very amazing. All right. So we're heading towards the end of the podcast episode. So what's something that you've learned from the women you've interacted with so far who are working with you, Sheila? Like, what's something that has stuck with you so far in this?
That women are in need of that. And I'd say not only the women, but also the clinicians really want those solutions to be embedded. And they're looking for that, just to have the reassurance of understanding the complications or the risk or the way a pregnancy journey is, that oftentimes they're not so aware of. And the fact that we provide those tools, we give everybody the power to kind of control that and have better outcomes. So that's kind of a very strong feedback, I think, from all my discussions with women and also men, by the way. So it's not only women, everybody has an experience with a pregnancy complication and with a very, I'd say, high risk pregnancy, or unfortunately even not so good outcomes of a pregnancy and delivery. And all of them say, I wish I had that. I wish I had your solution during my pregnancy. It would give me ease of mind or peace of mind, and it would give me a better, I'd say, pregnancy journey without being forced to have a preeclampsia and then outcome of giving birth at week 34 and going through a very stressful NICU period, etc. So I don't remember any interaction with a woman saying to me, I wouldn't need that solution. So it's all, I wish we had that. That is so important. And it's very important for everybody to understand that.
Okay. You said something that I found like, okay, it shouldn't be surprising anymore, because now we have like men who are actively supporting women's health. So what kind of feedback do they typically provide? I'm really interested in this. Like, how do they support the product?
Men are, I think, again, throughout my experience, are getting it more and more. At the beginning of my journey, and I'd say the global one is, I never came across that, or I didn't think that it's a strong market or a big enough market. That's not the feedback or the correspondence that I'm getting today. Everybody understands the opportunity, and everybody, of course, wants to be providing a better solution and a better future. So men are part of that and understanding their role, not only supporting their partner or their sister or best friend or whatever it is. I mean, it relates to everybody and it impacts everybody, and everybody wants to do good. So I get the strong feedback, a very positive one also for men.
Okay, awesome. That's really exciting. All right, final question for you, or maybe like second final question for you. So What's something that you want somebody who is listening to this podcast to walk away with that you want them to remember?
I'd say if a woman is pregnant, know where you are, enjoy the process, and look for the best solutions out there that can provide you this best experience, and focus on what's good and letting us provide with the enablement to having a safer and much healthier and easygoing pregnancy. That's one. And for a general woman, I'd say also if you have a passion to something, if you want to change something, go for it. Just do that.
Awesome. Thank you. All right. And final question. So for someone who wants to learn more about Shela Health or connect with you, where can they find you, your company, and all the details and all the updates?
Sure. So happy to reach out, and of course, happy to for people to reach out and interact and find the collaboration, but also the information. It can be on our website, which is Shela.health, on my LinkedIn profile, our company's LinkedIn profile. I mean, we still don't have more than that from a social presence, but we're also getting there. So follow us through social platforms and channels, and of course, reach out. I'm typically very available and happy to answer and support whatever is needed.
All right. Thank you so much. And super grateful to you for being on the podcast episode. I really appreciate it.
Sure, you're welcome. If we're stopping for a minute, I just want to, I thought I gave a not fully accurate, or at least for the what is the preeclampsia. So maybe improve that, my question around preeclampsia, which is very important. So just kind of wrapping it up, I've said that, but I think I want to be more cohesive and more comprehensive around preeclampsia, which is a very severe pregnancy complication. And you see it by high blood pressure, which is hypertension and signs of damage to other organ systems as well. And the main symptoms, very important, is high blood pressure, protein in the urine, severe headaches, change in vision, feeling nauseous and vomiting. These are kind of the critical symptoms that women often have, give or take between week to 20th. And as I said and mentioned, this is a severe complication, not only impacting the woman, but also the newborn, and entailing into a preterm delivery and a high, I'd say, or long-term admission at the hospital. And by having early prediction and understanding the risk of that early on, we're able to provide the right intervention. I think that's very important for preeclampsia. So that's kind of something that I'd like to change.
All right. Thank you so much. All right. Yeah, and we're wrapping up the episode now. So thank you so much. Alrighty, that's it for today's episode. If you're curious about your own risks or you work in maternal care and want to do more for your patients, visit Shela.health to learn more or get in touch. I'll leave details in the show notes and in the podcast description to their page, and for you to connect with Sharon. Her LinkedIn profile will also be in the description and in the show notes. If this conversation moved you, send it to a friend and share it to the doctor. And don't forget to follow us at asele.tech on Instagram and check out www.asele.tech for more episodes just like this one. We are also available on your favorite podcast platforms including YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcast, Amazon Music, and more. And be sure to subscribe so you don't miss an episode. Thank you for being here and for joining me on this learning journey to make women's health education more accessible to everyone. And I'll see you in the next one. Bye!